Good afternoon. This is the Thursday, May 18, 2017 meeting of the Athens City Planning Commission. We have one member in absentee, and we do have a quorum established. There is no one in our live audience to address the commission, so we'll move past the administration of the oath. Disposition of minutes.
I did review the minutes, had a couple clerical, but other than that, I would move to approve the minutes of Thursday, May 4th, 2017 Planning Commission minutes. Oh.
Yes, Mr. Lowe.
Just to clarify on the Madison Heights discussion, Jim Bloom, Diversified, halfway through the last page of that, says Paul Logue, that sentence, the very last thing in there where it says process is identical. Just to clarify, I think it's more or less identical, it may not be precisely identical verbatim.
I move for approval of the minutes with that amendment.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? I'm going to sit out this vote.
I'll also abstain
Okay.
Oops.
because I wasn't present.
Okay.
We'll have to move it to next.
So we're going to table that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cases today. Amended case number 17-11, Title 21, lot split, 46 Canterbury Drive, Wanda Cash. Mr. Surroy.
I do believe the Safety Service Director has some comments on that.
I do. I apologize. When we did our motion to recommend this to City Council for the lot split, we identified 3 conditions. The driveway easement and maintenance agreement include a maintenance agreement section. Language be included in the quitclaim deed indicating this is not altering a platted subdivision. And 3, that confirmation be obtained from the law director that this is not a replat of a platted subdivision. I failed to include the city staff recommendations that you have another copy in front of you. So I would like to move to add the conditions that were outlined in the March 21st, 2017 review by Director Rick Soroyce and City Engineer Andy Stone. Number 2, if the variance is granted, the current address of 46 Canterbury Drive will need to change to 48 Canterbury Drive, and the new lot will have the address of 46 Canterbury Drive. And 3, on this 3, any construction to access Canterbury Drive should be completed without disrupting the adjacent property street access or include reconstruction to support it. So prior to us sending the recommendation on to City Council, I am asking for a modification of the recommendation.
Will that have to be resent to council on that? Or?
Then this would go
Okay.
forward to council.
I see.
So it would be these 3 plus these 2 added, the address change and the construction on Canterbury Drive.
Any questions, comments? Okay. Did someone want to make a motion?
I would move to
A second.
adopt the amendment.
Okay. I'll abstain on this. So,
Okay.
oh, I think I
We
can.
didn't discuss it,
Yeah.
apparently.
Oh, okay. Did you have any questions or comments on that?
No, I mean, we
Oh.
didn't discuss those,
This, okay.
so I don't see why you'd have to abstain.
Okay.
But I was,
Correct, we didn't include these staff recommendations in the previous motion, so the amendment is to include them now.
I know, and we didn't discuss them, so he should not have to
Okay.
Abstain, I see what you're
abstain.
saying.
Okay, it's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. So this will be unanimous. Case number 17-12, the title 43, Wireless Telecommunications, 20A Monticello Drive, AT&T modification. Mr. Surroy?
Yes, good afternoon all. This is a Title 40 Wireless Communications Review for 20A Monticello Drive in Athens. The project description is AT&T modification on an existing tower. The tower is a 190-foot self-supporting tower, and the new singular wireless equipment is to be replaced is located at the 135-foot level. The proposed scope of work consists of the following: removal of 6 AWS band RRH, which is radio remote heads, installation of 3 each AWS bands, installation of 3 each 850 band RRHs, installation of 3 each PCS band RRHs. No changes to the footprint of the tower will be made. Note, the actual intended transmission power is stated as 40 watts for these antennas, because I know it was mentioned before that concerning the radius, that the emission radius of the antennas, so I thought I'd throw that in there. The application is similar to Verizon's modification request on the same tower from March 24, 2017, which was approved. Proper supporting documents were provided for the structural analysis of wind and foundation requirements. After review of the documents, it was determined that they met with code requirements under Title 43. Facts: applicant is New Singular Wireless, AT&T, Jacobs Telecommunications. The property owner is Willoughby Management Company, 297 South Cassidy Avenue, Bexley, Ohio. The tower owner is SBA, 8051 Congress Avenue, Boca Raton, Florida. The site location is 20A Monticello Drive in Athens. The tax map parcel number is A as in Alpha, 02904001500. The zoning is R3. The estimated value of improvement is $15,000. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Surroy. Are there any comments?
Just that in our discussion about cell towers, I wonder if there's a way we can get the radius served versus, I don't know if that's for an engineer that works in wireless telecommunications.
Radius, you mean the area of the service?
Yes, how, the
Coverage,
reach.
the area of coverage.
That's the word.
Okay.
I don't mean just for this one, but, you know,
And if you, okay.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
talked about an inventory. Okay,
I can probably access that online and get it for you.
thank you.
Anyone else?
Full quorum, should we pull this back up and have disposition of the minutes?
Yes. Okay, does anyone want to make a motion then?
I move to approve Title 43 Wireless Telecommunication Review, 20A Monticello Drive, a New Singular Wireless, AT&T, Jacobs Telecommunications.
A second.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Communications, disposition of minutes.
So I move to pull it off the table.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nancy?
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
Why would you pull it off the table?
Both
Didn't have a
Christie and RJ were absent, so
Oh.
they would have been
Well,
abstaining.
if the garage were open, I would have been here
I
then.
know, I apologize.
Well, you don't have to apologize, it's just, my knees hurt.
We talked about a few clarifications, and then the city planner wanted it amended to reflect on Madison Heights, where he said the process is identical between a subdivision or a PUD, but to say more or less, I guess.
Weasel language, okay.
Well,
I don't blame you.
I'm sorry, was
Process
that
is the
directed towards
same.
me?
no,
Oh.
the planner.
The planner. He's got his head down and his mouth shut. All right.
What did she say?
It was a comment on the more or less identical.
All right.
So
So,
I move to approve the minutes from May 4th, 2017 Planning Commission with the edits.
I second.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that would be
I thought
unanimous?
maybe it was something wrong with the way I ran that meeting.
So
Wouldn't be the first time. Good.
Okay.
clarify, you say it was unanimous? There were no-
3-0.
3-0.
So 2 abstentions. Okay.
Okay. Further in communications, bylaws and rules of order. Mayor, would you like to, or Paula?
Well, I will share with you that I've been in discussion with the law director, the mayor and I have, and she is encouraging us to adopt rules, procedures, and what have you. So basically, you have a lot of paper in front of you that shows what our charge is. I have these features from the Planning Commission Journal on articles that we could adopt. We've also provided the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. They recently amended theirs. I threw at you rules of council. And Paula, you provided some additional documents here. Oh, the County Regional Planning Commission. And then the interpretation of boundaries section.
Yeah, just two sections of, a section of 2102 and a section of Title 23 that clarify some responsibilities of the Planning Commission that we typically don't discuss. Just if we're going to build bylaws, we might want to just make sure that that's addressed in the bylaws. There may be a few others like this in city code that I'm not even aware of too, other land development or other sections as well.
So basically, just some models have been provided to get the discussion started on the structure that you would want. It's been a long time since I looked at the Regional Planning Commission rules. So.
You know, among other things, I think one of the important items in here is what is, I know this is a compilation of other pieces of legislation or rules, is Rule 14 that's on here.
Yes, we discussed having a section about public comment and public speaks.
And while it says here, each speaker will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, is there something that you would see as expanding on that time? And in our particular situation, I viewed the speaker limited to the maximum of 3 or 5 minutes or whatever we adapted as the idea of a presentation, that it wouldn't cut off discussion from the presenter's viewpoint unless there were no questions that the commission or that you had for them at the time that they were up at the podium. If there were no questions, that would ostensibly end their time to talk.
Well, I guess I'm wondering, would we want to distinguish between applicants and other public speakers? So obviously, if somebody's actually bringing a case to us, they're probably going to need more time to speak and to address any questions than we have. Whereas if it's just like kind of public commentary.
Right. What do you think, just to get as far as a sense of time, what would you think is a fair, and that's a good point, is to make that separation as far as applicants are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a time limit that you were thinking about maybe?
I don't know. I mean, I think it might be good to kind of talk through, because obviously some things are fairly simple and other things are much more complex. So if you've got people coming in with complicated plans that involve variances and things like that, that's going to take a little bit more time to work through. I think with applicants, we can maybe distinguish between an initial presentation period and then have the Q&A kind of run.
As long as we need.
Yeah, as long as we need to. And, you know, if we need to incorporate limits on response time to an individual question, we can maybe do that. But I don't, you know, I mean, I think.
Because I think it would also be good to, with this, to reduce redundancy a little bit more. And be able to focus in on the point there.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'm thinking, maybe for the initial presentation, something like 5 minutes and then a 3-minute cap on responses. And then maybe do the 3 minutes for people who are not actually applicants who want to address the commission.
I was thinking in terms of the 5 minutes sounds good. I was thinking though in terms of maybe response time maybe being a little bit more open-ended than the 3 minutes, because you might get into some situations where,
Yeah.
again, what you're saying is some might need more than 3 minutes.
Right, yeah,
So that would, I guess, be up to us to really kind of determine if someone has really kind of, if we wanted to use a 3-minute response and with the idea that we can still expand or,
right. So maybe if there are follow-up questions that come up, that starts the clock again, or
Right.
something like that. Or even if it's a situation where we want to say, we just want to leave the response period open-ended, so that, I wouldn't have a problem necessarily with that if you,
Yeah, I think my preference would be to leave the response time as open-ended, because I think most people who come in here are pretty brief in terms of what they need. We run across occasional people that stretch that, and I guess that would, again, be up to us then to find the time to sort of curtail their response down there. Mr. Suro?
They do have two opportunities. Remember, now they do a communications. So they initially come in and present themselves, and you could set a time limit of that or not. But then when they come back, they're pretty much having to dispute or argue their case or whatever, present it a little.
Right.
So I would allow a little more time there. I have been to other commission meetings and things like, other board meetings, and sometimes they limit it to 3 to 5 minutes, with the option of extending it depending on the severity of the case or what needs to be discussed. So you need to keep control on your end of the discussion, but allow that flexibility, incorporate that flexibility in there.
Yeah, I was hoping that we could make one applicable set of rules for any situation as opposed to coming up with 2 or 3 different sets of, how we handle this circumstance versus this other circumstance.
Well, if you look at that Rule 14 under City Council, they have the 3 minutes, but they have a cap of 15 minutes on the total amount of time allowed on a topic. I'm just wondering if there's a way we can incorporate or modify something similar.
In listening to Mr. Soroy's, I agree that there's 2 processes, something comes up that has gone through a fair amount of vetting at some point, and it comes forward as a communication. And then after that, they come back 2 weeks later, or not, but come back typically 2 weeks later, and now they're a case. And in both those situations, I think there's time that does need to be granted in a lot of cases under that communication of what they're bringing forward. A good example, I guess, would be the conversation surrounding the cell tower communication that came forward. Mr. Horvath had his time, and we worked through, and we had our shared issues or concerns or whatever that came up with that. And at some point, it'll either come forward as a case or whatever. But then at that point, when it comes back as a case, I kind of see that could possibly, have some time limits in terms of presenting, because we've already heard it. We've listened to it, and if there's going to be some level of change that occurs with that there's some amendments to via the communication that's come forward. I think 5 minutes is a reasonable amount of time. Then there's situations such as, again, to use something straight out of our minutes from the last meeting, under communications was the Madison Heights, where there isn't an actual proposal, it's more of a dialogue that's going on. That I can see time limits on, because it isn't coming to us as a vetted, something that's gone through the code office. It's like, here's our plan, this is what we're thinking of doing, and it going through under a project's communication, which will become a case, that was just information, trying to kind of see what's going on. That I can see item 14 really coming into play. You've got 3 minutes, 15 minutes total. If I'm not mistaken, that 15 minutes rule was for there being a number of individuals who want to speak on a topic, so that things aren't, I don't come walking in with a mass of 40 people and they're all going to talk on the same topic one by one, which, is the public's right, but it's a way to help kind of pull that, put some limits on things going forward. So that was a lot said for what I think is a reasonable process. But keeping the communication for an actual case, something that will be a case, being open, and we have the communication as it comes back later as a case, then we put something that's reasonable in terms of a time frame on it. I believe 5 minutes would be reasonable.
I think so.
And then there's our questions that'll come out of that.
Right.
Or, as
And
we
then
move
allow
forward.
an opportunity to respond and then keep that time limit there. And then if it gets too much, where the answers are not being provided, then you can table it and bring it and have them come back to the next meeting. Now, I don't recommend that. Most of the time, these cases are of time essence, but you do have that option.
Well, I like too the caveat that they've got in city council, where essentially it says unless permission to extend the time has been granted by the president of council. So if we could incorporate something like that, where we have kind of a baseline, this is what we typically do, but in the case of a situation that's maybe more complicated and requires more conversation, there is the option to just, in the moment, make the decision to extend that conversation.
I would be supportive of that, am I allowed to say that? Of having that language in there.
Yeah,
that, you know,
so have
the
the
chair-
option for the chair to extend the time.
What's that?
Handle Paul.
Did, Ms. Bain, did you have any comment on?
No, I just commented on you doing it.
Yeah.
That's it. I was reading this other stuff.
So we like the idea of 5 minutes in terms of the presentation
With extension.
during communication. And then as far as following up, with the actual proposed, adopting the ordinance, the same amount of time you're talking about, or just go ahead and maybe reduce that?
What I was saying is for communication coming forward as a vetted
Right.
project, I say we be open-ended, that we don't put a time limit on that because they're gonna need some time to explain.
Sure.
And we're gonna have a lot of questions, but when it comes back as a case, at that point, we have a 5-minute rule for the case presentation for them to present, and then we may or may not have questions moving forward, but at least we've got some time limitations. And then, I agree with what Christie was saying, is that then other communications is similar. I'm racking my brain, I should know this, right? In terms of city council, when council meets, there's always at the very end, items not on the agenda that haven't been discussed. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is that as someone coming forward with a case, or not a case, someone coming forward,
With an issue.
thank you, informational, or with a project and kind of wanting to know what the sense of this body would be.
So perhaps what we need is an addition to our agenda that would separate these communication, because we spent quite a bit of time with Soul Bloom Wentworth, because there was a lot to discuss.
It's still on
We
civil.
did.
And then maybe we need, do we need? It's
Given
just, I'm
our-
throwing it out there, do we need
Our
a
vast
public, yes,
attendance.
there's so many people here to ask.
I would say opportunity for citizens to speak, as I recall it, and I haven't been watching council lately, but was an opportunity not to react to them, but to present information, and there was no interactions with the people who came in and complained, or whatever.
That's correct.
Some guy riding through from Yellow Springs said, it would be really nice if you guys would do blah, blah, blah. And he said, thank you very much for your input.
Is this something we want to review in the next week or so, and then bring this back on June 1st?
Which one?
The rules of
Council? No.
Planning Commission,
Planning Commission, oh.
Rules of Planning
But we
Commission.
don't have it codified anyway, do we?
We don't have a what?
An exact,
Oh, I think this is gonna take more than
yep.
a week, but I
Right.
hear what you're saying.
But as far as
We can
getting
attack
further
in pieces.
discussion on this as well.
Yeah.
We had just started our own communication.
So,
I'll see if I can find any other cities, statute cities, how their planning commissions are, if there's any bylaws out there, just some samples of other,
parsimony and simplicity would be welcome.
yeah, right.
Simpler the better.
The city council seems like it's a pretty good template since, for some parts of this that we can kind of take out and plug in as well. No?
I mean, I never thought it worked very well, but that was
Okay,
on my
good
time.
enough. Right.
I mean, it's okay, but
Just having any order, I think, will be a benefit. Putting some of this into words.
Any other comments at this time? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to a report from the city planner, Mr. Loeb.
I think just two things this afternoon. Tomorrow I'll be in Columbus attending a one-day workshop for the Central Ohio Planning and Zoning Workshop. It's an annual event. If there's anything of note to the Planning Commission, I'll make sure to pass that forward. Just a brief update on the comprehensive plan process. I am wrapping up a summary document of the identified process that I kind of ran through on the PowerPoint, but I wanted to really flesh out all of those ideas and so that people have a better understanding of how it's going to move forward. Just having a tough time finding the block of time really needed to put it all together, but I think I'll have it done within midweek next week. That's all.
Okay, any questions or comments for Mr. Loeb?
Paul, could you remind us, I think it's in September, when the APA Ohio is here?
Yes, September 28, 29, that's Thursday, Friday. Statewide conference of the Ohio chapter of the American Planning Association will be taking place at Baker University Center. There'll be more, registration has not been opened yet, but it is open to planners as well as planning commission members and citizen planners. So if anybody's interested, it's a short walk from home or from work or campus. Should be lots of good workshops. We're working through that right now to identify all the workshops. We will have some mobile workshops around town as well and some other events. Should be good.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Loeb. Mr. Surroy?
Yes, I don't have very much to report, but I would like to reach out to the public and to address a situation we had just before I attended this meeting. If we could ask the public to not allow their animals on the rooftops. This animal managed to break through the screen in the window on the second story. And so we had to respond and get the dog warden and try to resolve that issue. The occupant was not there at the time. We tried to contact them, but we managed to, with the help of the dog warden, to put the dog back into the window and close that window. But it's very serious because people forget that the rooftops, the asphalt shingles get very hot during the summertime, and basically that dog could have been injured. So we responded and took care. So if the public could be more aware of what they do with their animals and where they leave them. Even though they're on the second story with an open window, they might puncture through the screen and get on the rooftop. Thank you.
Okay, thank. Any other questions or comments to Mr. Surroy? Again, there is no one in our live audience to address the commission, so we'll skip the opportunity for citizens to speak and announcements and other business.
We have, the mayor and myself have a conflict. We'll be at the International Town Gown Conference on June 1st. I did not know whether or not we could, if planning commission members would entertain a special session of the planning commission next Thursday. Anticipating
At
that
noon.
Menards will come forward.
I can contact them. I don't know what their flight schedule is, but yeah.
Would be May
First, no.
May
25th.
May 25th?
And if that's not available, other dates, I mean, June 8th would be,
June 1st, yeah, June 8th.
June 8th would be easier for me. I'm planning to be out of town next Thursday, but if it has to be that date and you can't get a quorum otherwise, I can try to rearrange my schedule.
June
we're
8
pushing
would
up
work.
against Memorial Day weekend, and we recognize that, so.
Okay.
I could do next Tuesday if that's something that the applicant could do, and no.
I can do the June 8th. I don't know if
Yeah,
Mayor-
I could do June 8th.
I'm not sure.
Nancy?
I'm not sure.
Not sure, okay.
I was here last week, but shoot, too long. I won't be here the first either, I don't think.
Well, that would be no, you
There's no
couldn't even get a
quorum on the
quorum with
first.
three of us
I
gone
thought you
on
wouldn't
the
trust the
first.
three of us to do it anyway, right?
It's not the case at all.
We might rewrite the rules.
At this point, were you planning on presenting any,
I was planning to present June 1st in Menard.
okay.
That was the plan.
Is that something that they would obviously rather have done sooner than later, or?
Most likely, but there's other situations that might depend on that, so maybe June 8th might be a
A good date.
better
The
date.
700
Can we,
trees.
lock it in, and if there
Yeah,
is a
I'm
change
comfortable with
needed,
committing to
Friday.
June 8th.
communicate via phone call, email, or?
So
if we-
essentially, the plan would be to cancel the June 1st meeting and meet June 8th.
Move it to June
instead
8th.
of that.
So could we clarify that if they are not ready on the 2nd of June, then they can go on the 15th? I mean, because this last minute stuff could kill us, several of us. Okay? I mean, so over the weekend, they'll have to get down here from Wisconsin anyway, right?
They're here tonight, but
For the tree commission?
yes, ma'am.
Well, I guess that'll
I
answer.
think that falls pretty much within even though we don't have formalized rules of procedure, but that would be the deadline of the Friday before the next meeting. So I
Yeah.
think that we'd be able to,
And if they want to do it, you can tell them tonight,
okay.
right? And you can let us know. Thank you.
Okay, so right now,
June 8th.
June 8th, okay?
Unless they're not going to do
So then our next meeting would be Thursday, June 8th at noon? Okay. Let's see, anything else on announcements or other business? No. Mayor?
Just a brief announcement that the construction that's been taking place on West Union, the south side of the sidewalk will be completed this week, and then they'll be migrating over to the other side. And I know that there's a lot of orange barrels out there, but, you know, you can certainly, anyone can check the city's website to see what the detours are, what the routes are. We've got the variable message signboards out there for anyone who's viewing right now, or as long as this is being pushed out, to where people can identify different modes of routes through the city to get from point A to point B.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, with the Planning Commission's business concluded, this meeting is adjourned.